today? How are we all doing? First question is it snowy where you are? Because it's snowing here and I'm not okay with it. Anyway, hi everybody. So for those who don't know me, my name is Lindsey Hall and I'm an intimacy and empowerment coach. And that means that I really am totally lit up by supporting other women to own their power, own their pleasure, live a joyful life that they absolutely love. And I do this for any woman who wants to feel that way about their life, but also I specialize in supporting women who are going anywhere through the divorce process. And that means all the way from like just starting to think about it and like questioning inside and not really wanting to tell anybody about like, am I going to stay in my marriage or not? Through to somewhere in the midst of the divorce and like, oh, I'm just in the mess of all of this. And then all the way through, like coming through the other side and being able to get out or being willing to get out there and start dating again and finding the next love of your life. So that's an area of specialty for me, but by no means all that I do. But I've been there myself before, and I know that I desperately wanted extra support through that time of life, so I want to provide that support to other women who are going through the same thing. But that is not what I'm going to start off with talking about today. So if you've seen these tea break chats before, you know that I start by doing a kind of life chat with whatever has been going on this week, and then I will answer the questions that you guys asked me, and I've got 2 good ones this week, and then I will wrap it up. So this week, what has been going on? So if you follow my stories, you will know that yesterday I announced a secret offer, and I'm calling it a secret offer even though I'm obviously talking about it because the audience is limited. So I am not really doing posts about it. I am not putting it on my Facebook. It is just for those who are watching my Instagram stories and this. So the class that I am talking about is about blowjobs. So I am going to be offering a class this coming Sunday, the 12th of March, about how to give blowjobs, and it's a how-to, but like in terms of tips and tricks and how to make it feel awesome for him, because I'm pretty damn good at it, if I do say so myself. And honestly, I don't have to say so myself. I've had feedback to tell me that it's true. So it's about how to make it feel really good for them. But super, super, super importantly, it's about how to make it fun for you too, because honestly, I love it. Like, it's fun for me to provide that much pleasure for a man who I am intimate with. So a big thing of this class that I'm going to do is like how to make it fun for you too, so that you find it enjoyable. Because if it's like a chore that you're trying to do, absolutely not, no go. Like, you should never be doing this out of obligation. So that's where the idea from the class came from. But what I want to talk about this week here is all of like what this blowjob class represents, because it represents humongous growth. Mine is the growth that I was talking about there, but there's other growth too. Okay, gonna try and keep this from not getting dirty. That's what Sunday night's class is for. So it's but the fact that I am offering this class, just like I said, like represents enormous growth. So I started my coaching journey of getting coached about 2.5, coming up on 3 years ago, when I hired a sex coach to work with, because sex had been an issue in my life for a while. And I knew that I wanted, and I felt broken. I felt like it was my fault that we had sex issues, and I felt like I was broken, and I wanted to get some help with that before I even thought about entering into a new relationship. And so I hired this sex coach, and we, on our first call, we got along great, and we're chatting about life and stuff that was going on in my life. And then towards the end of the call, she asked about sex, and I was like, ooh, why is she asking me about this? I can't talk about this. And then, of course, had to be like, hey, Lindsey, you hired her to talk about sex. You have to at least be able to talk about it. But it was hard. It was really hard for me to talk about, because I felt so much shame around it, both like societal shame and shame that from my relationship. And I said, I felt so broken, and I felt like there was something wrong with me. So talking about it was really hard. And also, in addition to feeling like I was broken, I also felt like good girls don't talk about this stuff. There's, You're not, I'm a good girl. I've really had that programmed into me for so long. Like I try and like do the things I'm supposed to do and like be the people pleaser and be like, the straight A student, the follows all the rules. And those girls don't talk about sex. They probably don't even like, they probably have it, but they don't enjoy it. They sort of don't talk about it. So I had all this piled on. So that's where I started this journey. Like I said, come 2.5, 3 years ago. And I have worked with a coach now for all that time in various forms, 2 in particular who are intimacy coaches. And I've done a whole lot of work on myself, and I've done a whole lot of work. It's definitely not all related to sex, obviously, but like everything is everything when we're healing our internal wounds. So I've done a whole bunch of work to like disentangle that shame and to get back in touch and connect with my body and get back in touch with all parts of me and to love on all parts of me, including all those parts that I had been taught to shame and to judge and to keep hidden. And a huge part of this work has been like shining the light on all those parts of me and really, really loving every part of me, even the parts that I thought were unlovable or I thought society was telling me were unlovable or dirty or whatever it was. So all of that work has gone into my personal journey and then also my journey as a coach and how I show up and coach other women, because this is what I want for all of my clients. I want you to feel truly, truly deeply in love with all parts of yourself. And like, there is no part that you need to hide. There is no part of you that you need to feel shameful about, that every single part of you is worth loving, including the part of you that loves to give blowjobs. Okay? So that is a huge part of why I'm offering this. And it shows, like I said, it shows the growth that I've gone through over all this time, that I can say that word out loud, that I can tell people on the internet that I'm good at it and that I enjoy it and I'm going to do a class about it. And honestly, it was scary for me to put it out there. So I put this out first in my like close friends Instagram group, which I don't use very often, but it's a smaller group of people who I trust more. And I was like, would you guys do this if I wanted to do this class, would you be interested? And I kind of like tested the waters and got great responses through there and great conversations. And that then empowered me to be like, okay, I'm going to put this out more publicly. Like I said at the beginning, though, this is only on my Instagram and it's only really on my stories and on here because my nervous system can't quite cope yet with doing it like super publicly. If I were to put it on my Facebook, my entire family is on there. And I'm not really ready for my entire family to know about this. And that's okay. So this is still an area of growth for me. So I've come so far, but there's still more for me to do. And that's okay to recognize as well. But even by putting it on my Instagram, like there were certain people, so there are some family members of mine that will have seen this. There's some ex-in-laws who will have seen this. There's some people who I used to work with. There's people who, before I posted it, I was like, oh my God, they're going to see it. What's going to happen then? And I could have blocked them from seeing it. Like you can selectively say who sees your stories and who doesn't. And I could have taken them off. But I really worked through that before I shared it. I went, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep it so that everybody who is on here can see it if they want to, because I don't need to feel shame about this. The fact that I am offering a class on blowjobs does not make me a horrible person. It does not make me some, like any of the bad things that I used to think might have been true or that other people might still think are true. It's not true. So even if you're watching this and like having horrible judgments against me because I'm doing it, don't. Keep them to yourself. It's not my truth. I know that I'm still a fine, respectable, upstanding woman, even though I'm going to teach a class on blowjobs. And it doesn't say anything about my worthiness, my ability to love, my goodness as a human, my, I'm not a horrible mother because of this. It's all just totally fine. It's just a part of me, and it's not something to have to hide. So, but like I said, I had to work through all of that in terms of like sharing it on my stories because I knew there were some people who were going to see it who I was like, oh, about. And guess what? I've shared it. They've all seen it. Literally every single person who I was like, oh, about saw it yesterday. Of course, even the people who don't watch my stories every day, they still watched it yesterday because that's the way it works. and nobody has said anything to me about it. I have not died of embarrassment. And so a really cool part of all of this is it's unlocked conversations with other people then about like whether they feel too. I've had a few responses, like friends that I told about who are like, oh, I'm too much of a prude to do that, but I'll share it with other friends. And it's unlocked conversations about like being a prude or not, and thoughts on like whether we can watch this or not, or embarrassment about watching it. And the same growth that I'm gone through to get to this point and I'm going through with sharing it, I'm opening that up in everybody who's having these conversations. And also, I've had so many messages from people who are like, I don't need that class. I'm already amazing at this. And I love that there's so many women like owning their greatness in this. And by me speaking about it on here, it's giving people permission to own that in themselves too. And that's another huge reason I'm doing it. So there's just so much that comes from being willing to talk about the things that we're not supposed to talk about, from shining a light on the things that had been hidden in the dark before. And this is where all of the growth comes in. And I'm not just talking about blowjobs, obviously. Like, this is true in all of the work that we do. It's shining a light on the things that were previously super scary and realizing that actually maybe they're not so scary at all. Or realizing that actually if we do some healing work here, it's going to be okay. And so that is, like I said, this class it's an indication of how much growth I've had up until this point. And it's currently providing like super massive growth at the same time. And that is so super exciting. So before I move on to the questions, I'm just going to, I have to check the time because my watch is broken. Oh, I can't check the time. But so all of that said, that was not meant to be a massive sales pitch, but of course I would be remiss because I'm a business owner. So I would be remiss if I didn't actually tell you how you could join if you want to. So the class is going to be this Sunday, the 12th of March. It's going to be 8 p.m. English time, which if times are an issue, don't worry. You can always get the link for the replay because it'll be recorded. I do not have it on my website. So if you want to watch it, you have to send me a message. I will send you the PayPal link for the £14. Did I say it's £14? It's £14, which is roughly $17, a bit less than that. As soon as I get your PayPal money received, I will send you the Zoom link, and Bob's your uncle. You're all good for Sunday night and or the replay. So if you want in, let me know. It is going to be fun. There's already 9 people who have said that they are in, and I am so excited about it. Okay, that's that part of it today. The next part is the questions part. So like I said, I've got 2 good questions. The first one is, do you ever have days that you are really hard on yourself? And I am laughing because we all have days where our inner critic is loud and shouty and telling us all kinds of things that don't necessarily feel good to hear. So if you're asking this question because you're wondering I'm feeling this way and is it normal? Absolutely, 100% totally normal. We all have that. What I will say is the days where my inner critic is loud and shouty at me are diminishing. There are less of them than there used to be. My inner critic, she chimes up sometimes and can be real nasty. But I know, not to ignore her completely. Dismissing her doesn't usually work. It just makes her shout louder. People don't like being ignored, including the inner parts of us. So trying to just dismiss her out of hand doesn't usually work. So I now know how to recognize that voice, listen to what she's saying, and then move past it and come up with my own truth instead and let the other parts of me also have their say. So although the inner critic is a part of us, and she definitely has some things to say, she is not the only part, and she does not get to run the show. So I let her have her say, and then I let the other parts of me, like my soul queen self, chime in, and I decide who gets to run the show that day. And I don't usually decide to let the inner critic run the show. So yes, I absolutely have times where I'm like, ugh, you're the worst, Lindsey, it's never gonna work. Like, why did you do that? That was a terrible choice. Like, you shouldn't have done it that way. You should have done this instead. And then I can come back around to, you were doing the best that you could. You know how to fix this. You can repair this. You can give yourself a massive hug, and we can move forward with this. So all of that is totally normal in every single human. Everyone. Okay, the next question is one that It's a really good question, and I will try and answer succinctly, but I can definitely answer it, but I'm not so great at answering it succinctly, so I'll give it my best shot. The question is, I talk sometimes about kind of like masculine and feminine energy and about getting back in touch with your feminine and connecting with your feminine energy. And the question is, how does that show up and impact our relationships? And specifically, things like when people think about kind of the feminine side of things, do I mean things like housework and the mental load and taking things on around the house? And like, how does that dynamic work within relationships? I'm not even sure I've relayed the question clearly, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, what the question was. But like I said, I can answer it, but it's a complicated question. So masculine and feminine energy is in all of us. And honestly, the terms masculine and feminine are a bit misleading. But I don't have any better words to use at this point. So those are the words I'm going to go with. But they're in both of us, men, women, non-binary, like all of us. And they are just different energies kind of within us. So the feminine energy is more about receiving, it's about creativity, it's about flow, it's about creation, it's about, what did I say? Receiving, flow, creativity, creation, that kind of thing. The masculine energy is more like structure, doing, getting shit done, providing safety, I think I said structure already. And it's more kind of rigid in its feel, whereas the feminine is more flowy in its feel. And both of these need to coexist, and they exist in this kind of yin and yang state of balancing each other. And I feel like I'm not going to explain this well. I'm so sorry. And so we have, in a relationship, like I said, they both exist, and it's like the pole ends of two magnets, where you need the polarity is what keeps the dynamic going. If everybody in a relationship is like leading with their masculine, it's not going to work. It's going to create all kinds of discord. And similarly, if everybody is leading with their feminine, also not going to work. It creates all kinds of discord. You need to have this polarity for relationships to be sustainable. Now, what's happened in a lot of cases in societal is that the women have really become kind of socialized to lead more with their masculine. So we tend to do a lot of the doing. We take on a lot of the load around the house. We take on a lot of the mental load is a very real thing. And we, especially, and this is a tricky part of like the feminist fight over the past generations, because like we can do everything men can do. We can do it. We don't need no man. And we can get so caught up in this, like the doing and the like proving we're as good as the men. And it's turned into like proving we're the same as men. So we do a lot of the doing. But by us taking on that role, then the men's masculine energy can get quite wounded. They can go more towards the feminine. And the dynamic has shifted in a lot of cases. So the question that I had been asked was about, so in that case where like the woman is doing the doing, how does that not get taken advantage of by like lazy men who don't want to do the doing, and it ends up with a super unfair dynamic within the house. And this takes big shifts. So first of all, this is absolutely not something that like is just your thing on its own. This is like big societal stuff where, like I said, the shift towards women like leading with their masculine is a big thing. Men who have this like wounded masculine energy will fall into more of the receiving and the not doing things, so it does do stuff from the house. This is not really it's not what anybody wants. It doesn't feel good to anybody, really. When men are in their healed masculine self, they want to show up as the provider, as the keeping that structure, that stability, making their partners feel safe and taken care of and protected and provided for. But because if they're in this wounded state, it can all feel wonky and off. And So to shift out of that dynamic within a relationship takes big work. And we can't ever control what our partners do, but ideally it's big work from both of you. But you can only do your stuff. And by embodying more of your feminine and embodying more, getting back in touch with your feminine energy, it gives the space for your partner to step up. And if you're in a heterosexual relationship, it gives the space for your partner to step up into their masculine energy more. And this can be a slow process. It's not overnight, and it can take a lot of practice from you in particular, because you can only do you, but ideally from both of you. But practice in embodying that, practice in communicating, in setting boundaries, in holding on to what you will and will not do. And like I said, it's not necessarily quick, but it is possible. And when we can come back into more in touch with our feminine energy more often, and it doesn't mean all the time. Like, we have to get shit done too. Absolutely. Like, stuff needs to happen and we're going to have to do it. But if we can get back in touch with the feminine energy more often, you can see huge shifts in your relationship. Like I said, I struggle to explain this in short periods of time. Like, this is really, really something that is really better diving into in one-to-one coaching, because there's so many nuances and so many things that are specific to us individually and to our individual relationships. So I hope that was helpful as a start, but this is very much a topic that is like perfect for one-to-one coaching. And it's so much of what I've done in the coaching that I've received has been about getting back in touch with my feminine, getting back in touch with my body, with my intuition, learning to go with the flow, healing my feminine that had been totally wounded by the world, healing my masculine that I had been leading with but had been like wounded all over the place. So I'm still working on this, and I probably will be forever. So it's a huge piece of what I've been doing in my journey, and what I do with my clients is really learning to embody their womanhood again. Because honestly, what it comes down to in a lot of cases is we've lost touch with our womanhood, and bad news bears for everybody. And it doesn't allow our men to be in touch with their healed masculine either. So, like I said, one-to-one coaching is the place where this is at for that one. But I hope that gives you at least an overview. If I have left you just utterly and absolutely confused, please let me know and I will try and clarify more. But if it's something you want to talk about more individually, send me a message. Absolutely. I would love to talk more about it. If you're like, oh my God, I definitely need to do that, please send me a message and we can talk about one-to-one coaching. I do have 2 different ways to work with me through one-to-one coaching. There's the mini package, which is 3 sessions that you can use within 2 months of each other. And those 3 sessions are £444. Or you can do the luxury package, which is 3 months of coaching with me. And so much can change in 3 months. Although also, it's kind of the tip of the iceberg, because once you get into this, it's really hard to stop. It feels so good. So the 3-month package is, wow, brain freeze. You get 3 calls a month with me, and you get Voxer support, which is where you've got me text and voice note Monday through Friday, and you can get so much more coaching that way. So rather than it just being on our calls, you've got me like 24/7. Okay, I do sleep, but you've got me in your back pocket Monday through Friday for all kinds of extra coaching support. So that's really, really like insanely helpful. So for 3 calls a month and Voxer support for 3 months is £667 a month. So those are your 2 options for working with me as one-to-one with all of this stuff. I have already talked about the blowjob class, which is this Sunday, which is £14, which is roughly $17. Send me a message if you want that, and I will send you the PayPal link right away, and it's going to be super fun. All my divorcee stuff is on my website, lindseyhallcoaches.com, and I think that's it. So, if you want to talk about anything else, drop it in the comments, send me a message, and if not, then have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you here next Wednesday. I always put up the question box on the Tuesday, or you can send me a message at any time, and I will talk about your questions. And until then, have a wonderful week. Mwah! Bye.